The Imperium just got reinforcements.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Baer from SpikyBits.com, and we've got the new Imperial reinforcements. The Primaris Repulsor Executioner goes for $100, and the Skorpius Disintegrator / Dune Rider Transport, yep, they finally got a transport and a main battle tank, goes for $75. The Repulsor Executioner comes with 3 sprues, just like the normal Primaris came with, 2 years ago, I guess, when the 8th edition was first released back in 2017. However, this sprue is specific to the Executioner variant. So I'll show you a few things when we get this put together, but it's gonna interface very differently with this chassis than probably what we're used to with the other tank. And then the other 2 sprues are just the normal sprues right there. Comes with a base, 100mm base, the little crazy widget thingy, and vehicle transfers as well. What makes this sprue so special? Well, it comes with a completely different turret with the back pivoting storm bolters that go right here. It also comes with the parts for the little stubbers that go in the rear of the vehicle, which don't actually have anything to do with any of this. And then, of course, the new was this macro plasma thingy and the super las cannon. I made those names up. I don't know what they're actually called, but we'll look at the data sheet here in a second. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, then you got the gunners and all the equipment. Some new equipment and different things in your aerials back here that are going to plug in. So this is pretty much it. The only thing that's new out of the whole kit. As far as the assembly goes, well, I'm not going to be able to show you as I'm doing it, but let's just run down some things here real quick. A lot of these assemblies, because they're making this stuff on the computer, is very, very tolerant. So everything's tight. You have to be very, very, very specific how you glue the things together. Now, some of the stuff says left and right. So it is specific, but you know, chances are when we get in there and we start looking at it, it's not going to be super specific. The best rule of thumb I can give you for assembling the Repulsor is measure or dry fit everything and then glue it together. All of this is pretty straightforward, and it's actually a way better assembly than the Land Raider itself. But when you think about the Land Raider, was pretty much designed 20 years ago, so there's probably a reason for that, to be quite honest. But it all goes together in assemblies with these little hover panel things, and then the walls are super easy to get together. Now there is a gotcha, and what I noticed right here is there's a lip on this piece right here, and it's very specific. You have to notch the lip under here. I guess it gives it this plate a little extra support underneath it. So just be very careful. That's a potential gotcha right there that I noticed. And then once you start getting into all the hover panels and things, I mean, they go together pretty well. I've done all this before in the past. Just line them up. They lock together swimmingly. It's pretty easy to put together. Everything else here looks pretty standard to what we've done in the past. And then you've got the new hotness here. So this top cupola is going to actually lock in where there was previously weapons, right? And chances are, because they don't say use glue here, this you don't have to glue down either, and we'll check that as well, which would be a huge boon if you want to paint this separately, like a gray as opposed to a blue, or just an accent color, maybe like gold, who knows. But that's something to keep in mind right there. Now looking over here, they also say don't glue on the different weapons, so I'm almost wondering, because of the tolerances are so tight with the computer design, if these will just lock in and you can switch them out. We'll find out here in a minute once we start putting it together. All the extra bells and whistles, the auto launchers, which are basically smoke launchers, your Icarus missile pods, all the different little things that you can put on here if you want, and then obviously don't glue down the turret. The gunner if you want. This I'm debating on this right here because it's going to increase the profile of the turret, but we'll find that. And all the bells and whistles here can put on this back plate. I'm going to show you the one we had painted 2 years ago when they first came out. None of this stuff's on there, and it looks just fine in my opinion, but you know, it's really up to you how crazy you want to go on this. Now, rules wise, here it is right here. It ends up, you pretty much have to pay for everything you put on this, and a lot of things there's 2s of right up here. So keep in mind, this is going to be a high 200. So you're talking Land Raider prices or Land Raider points wise for this particular loadout right here. Will it be good? Will it be competitive? It's really hard to say at this point, but it's got some really good rules. You know, you're measuring from the hull, subtracting 2 distance to charge. You can pop smoke if you don't shoot. That seems silly. If you move under half speed, You can do your pew pew, your heavy pew pew. So it's basically, you can shoot them twice. It does have machine spirit, so you never suffer the -1 for moving and shooting heavy weapons. So let's jump into it. Let's get it put together and compare it to the other repulsor that's out there. And here it is. So about 2-hour build time on this. It's going to take about an hour to trim down all your parts and get them all nice and neat. Now, I didn't glue everything down because sometimes it's just easier. There's a lot of things on here that aren't glued down that just socket right in. I mean, the turret is not one of them, but all the doors are not glued in, so they could be painted at your leisure if you really wanted to. And really cool news here, just like I said, this top piece isn't even glued in. This pops right off, which is really cool. So you could paint that something different. Remember, don't use glue up here. So, and then the doors are gonna fly off now, but that's okay. That was about to be expected. So that's pretty neat to see. Also, you can switch out, and I decided to not glue this in. So it just kind of locks in, and then these are just in there. So I imagine I would glue those down at some point. But the cool news is that you can switch this out with the macro bombard thingy-mabobber. Oh no, that's the other tank. Never mind. So you can switch it out with the macro plasma, and boom goes the dynamite. It just basically locks together. You put it on there, and you're good to go. You can actually move it and reposition it and things, which I thought was pretty neat. You can put a driver in here if you want. You can put all the extra gear on there if you want. But you know, at the end of the day, it's just more stuff to paint. And I just wanted to get this put together and show you as quick as I could. So how does this compare to the one that's already out there? Well, here it is right here, and you can see that for the most part it's pretty similar. The bottom chassis is all the same, but then once you put that middle piece in there, it changes up the profile completely right here, and you're missing these weapons. The front is very similar, but obviously not the same either, and then you've got the same sort of gaps and everything right in here. We didn't put the Aquila on either because we would paint that separate. So the one thing that everybody's probably dying to know is, will this turret fit on here? And yes, it will. Will this turret fit on here? Yes, it will. But here's the thing, this looks kind of silly. Without that extra armor plate on there, it just looks like it's got a big head. It's a bobblehead Primaris tank right here. But you could do it if you do get a hold of one, or you just don't feel like painting up, you know, the whole other turret. But either way, it's very, very similar to the other tank, and they both, you know, look great, and plenty of opportunities to really just kind of go nuts and get your paint on with these. Next up is the new Ad Mech Tank. This is only 2 sprues, as you can see right here, 2 fresh new sprues that we've never seen before. Instruction manual and decal sheet. There is no base for this. Who knew? So let's take a look at the sprues real quick. So the sprues themselves are, well, there's a lot of detail. There's a lot of stuff jammed into these. This is basically your fuselage and extras. You got extra hatch, you got gunners, you got all the little ladder components. If you ever put it together in Imperial Knight, you're very familiar with those. The different heads for the crewmen, and there's, is it this one? Yeah, there's the little ammo crates for the side guns right there. You use the same side guns for whichever version. And then you got the little, I don't know, hovercraft shock prow things, and the hoverboat kind of boat rudder director airflow things. Technical terms, I know. And your different turrets. So everything is right there. And then your main fuselage and stuff is contained on this sprue. So your left and right halves, your tops, your alternate tank top right there. And then the front, we'll call it like, this is just like, I don't know, some sort of hovercraft float thing. Bottom hull, tank front piece, tank top piece, and rear. I have a suspicion, I haven't looked at the instructions yet, but I feel like there isn't a full bottom to this, because that's not the whole length of it. And speaking of instructions, here they are. So let's take a look at it, see if we can locate any gotchas right there. So pretty standard assembly, and it does look like that indeed doesn't go the whole length of the fuselage. So it goes together left and right halves, got turbofans on the back. Ooh, that looks fun. Whole bunch of little ladder pieces right there. Top, looks like it's going to be the same top for either variant, because you have to glue on the little hoverboat things. Antennas are going to increase your profile. Not sure how I feel about those quite yet. And the rest of the rail system, this all looks, and then you got little headlights and things. This all looks pretty easy. Side gunners, and the back is open. I think they have a little handle grips you can attach there. This is actually only one gunner, so you're going to get the same gunner whether it's for the main turret or for it's the little troop transport turret right back here. So that's a very important thing. We're going to try to make the most of our bits here and assemble both varieties of this together. Some little cupola pieces, the different main weapons, the Ferrum cannon and the Baller Sirius energy cannon, and then you've got some top little creeper dudes just kind of chilling. And over here is the Dune Rider variant, which is going to have a little side hull pieces, but remember it's kind of open top-ish. Then you've got the crew point defense, so a cannon, flip down ramp, and the gunners here will actually attach to those pieces right there. So if you're not putting the main top over, these guys actually crew it. So I guess they're technically in there even when it is a tank. And they have the little ammo bundles, and that's kind of cool to see. So it gives you something a little crack out on a little bit. Have some fun with. And then that goes over there, little top pilot guy, and there is the weapon profiles. If you haven't seen these already, somebody posted them up and we did an article on breaking down how everything works basically. So your transport is going to be around, I think it's around 60-70 points, which is pretty respectable, although it is only toughness 6 rather. At 12 wounds, it's still going to get bracketed when it takes a few, but it isn't too bad. I mean, it gets down to half. It's still moving 9, which is pretty nice. It is a hover platform, so it's not going to have those negatives to firing the heavy weapons. And that's all the big stuff. I mean, you can put your duders in here, of course, and there's the breakdown on that. 10 of infantry cannot transport Baller Sirius, breachers, or cataphrons. So you can get your electro priests and your other varieties of infantry in here as well. You could also, not to be confused with Forge World, the keyword, but you could also get Forge World, the manufacturer, those Skitarii models in here as well, because they do have 40k rules, so don't forget about that. Once we get over to the main battle tank version of it, it clocks in at like the low 100s, which is pretty crazy for the amount of firepower it can actually put out. You can choose between either the Baller Sirius energy cannon or the Ferromite cannon, both of which are pretty good. Don't like random shots, but man, it can definitely put out some fire there, and they both come with the missile launcher. 2 of the stubbers, 3 stubbers, the missile launcher, and or your cannon, and of course a broad spectrum data tether. Haven't looked at all the Forge World rules in a while, so maybe there's something that actually benefits vehicles. I don't think so generally, but somebody correct me in the comments because I don't have my book on me right now, unfortunately. So that being said, I don't think any of the Forge World things are going to do that. Let's go ahead and put it together and see if we can make both versions out of one kit. So as you would expect, this goes together a lot quicker than the Repulsor does, believe it or not. So not a lot of moving parts. This is just your basic like starting point for your frame, and then from here you build on whichever version you want. So you've got the fins. I blue tacked down the turrets, and there's a reason for that, because maybe I want to go back and put crew. But for the transport version, there's a gun that goes right here. So what I found out is there actually is a way to do both variants, and I'm going to show you just how to do that. So you can assemble the top, and you can put the turret on here, and the turret actually doesn't glue down. The tolerances are so well, you really don't need magnets for a lot of this. Now what I did was I actually did not put the little crazy servitor dude inside here, because you can't really see him in here, right? It's just like a turret. But you could put some of those creeper, remember the creeper duders? I don't have the instructions handy. You could put some of the creeper duders in here, like that guy or something like that, and actually make it look, or even that guy, and make it look like they are in the gunner seat, so to speak. But I didn't really think about that till the end. Now to make this the tank version, all you got to do is just plop in this part right here, and then it just like literally locks down, and boom, you got the tank. Now you can put the antennas right here. I didn't glue them down because I wasn't sure how the profile would look compared to the other stuff. So they do go right there, and I suppose it's good, but I would probably magnetize those, to be quite honest, just because so you can store it a little bit better, because now you have these hanging out the sides, and it's already starting to turn into like a big misshapen polygon of ridiculousness. I just don't even know at that point. So that's pretty easy and pretty straightforward, right? Then what I wanted to show you was, those are marine weapons. I don't mixed up my marine stuff here. Okay, then what I wanted to show you was that, oh, and for the main battle cannon, you can easily just switch, believe it or not. These just socket in and actually, well, now that might be proven false. Yep, they do. So these actually just like lock in and you can, and they rotate and everything like that. So the main battle cannon, you could magnetize it, but to be quite honest, as long as you don't get any glue or any debris in there, I need to dig it out a little bit. These will just lock in and you won't have anything. You'll just be like pew, 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 pew. But you never know. I mean, it probably would be a good idea to go ahead and magnetize them. Now, for the transport version of this, it's just as easy. So you take the ramp, you glue the sides on, you lock it in, boom, you've got the transport version. And furthermore, you just put this guy right here. So maybe you want to magnetize him, maybe you just want to use some blue tack or something like that. Now, it does look kind of wonky because this ramp will flip down and you'll see the hull right there. But to me, it doesn't seem that crazy, to be quite honest. It kind of looks cool, like it's just designed like that, like it's a bridgehead or a bridge layer. I don't know. I think it's a small price to pay to be able to field both tanks, because I could see in some instances where you're going to want a lot of these, but at low 100 points, I could see where you might want some of those tanks too. The only other thing is, and I do want to point this out, that this roll bar, this roll cage doesn't go on this version, but it is supposed to go on this version right here. But it's, I mean, I showed it to you and you might not have even noticed that there isn't a roll cage or whatever this thing is right here. And I mean, you could do something about it. You could just maybe glue it on there, but then you wouldn't be able to attach it. Maybe use some magnets, or maybe just don't care about it, because really it's hardly noticeable, to be quite honest. Or I don't know, it's up to you, but I'm not even going to worry about it. Me personally, I'm probably going to spend the time magnetizing those and magnetizing the turret weapons, and then just call it good at that point. So kind of crazy, but for the price, I think, like, you know, future-proofing your hobby and making both versions of anything you can these days in Warhammer 40k is probably the way to go. So I can't say enough good things about that. Obviously, check out our friends over at Magnet Baron. Now, how big is this tank? Well, this tank, compared to a Rhino, not much bigger, to be quite honest. So it's a little bit longer. It might be about the same length as the Land Raider. Obviously, not the same width as the Land Raider. It's about the same size as the Leman Russ. Of course, same, you know, well, shorter than a Leman Russ, or wider than a Leman Russ, wider or longer than both a Leman Russ and a Chimera. So other than that, it is a little bit different, but it is a little skinnier too. So it's a fun little boat hovercraft thing for the Mechanicum that you can make both ways, which is really, really cool. And, you know, Games Workshop designs come a long ways, I feel like, since, you know, in the Repulsor part, I was talking about the Land Raider that was designed literally in 1999, 20 years ago. So it's kind of cool to see these days what we can do 20 years later. 20 years from now, we might be playing with holograms. We might be buying these things off of GW's version of iTunes and 3D downloading them and printing them out. But either way, until we get there, future-proof your hobby. Try to make as many versions as you can. And if there's a couple parts missing, you might not even notice them. So that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching this video. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Make the most out of your hobby, and make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.